Friends, we are going to get started.
Things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. All light. Oh, light. Yeah. Oh, light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. Yeah. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
So, my friends, let's open in prayer. Let's close our eyes, opening our hearts, feeling the presence of God here with us, feeling the presence of Jesus, and knowing deep inside that we are light. Our soul is light, and we mentalize light inside us and all around us as we open our hearts and our minds to this opportunity to bring more light into our being through messages from the good spirits, giving us this opportunity to grow and evolve together. Knowing we are all here by a divine appointment, we commit to ourselves and to each other to make the best use of our time together by radiating intentionally as much light from within as possible, that we would not only evolve each other, but all those brothers and sisters on the spiritual realm that are here with us to receive assistance and to receive light. Let us be part of a circle of light, helping all. May God bless each and every one of us now and always. And so it is. So be it. So welcome, everyone. We are talking today about chapter 5 of the book Thought and Life. And the title of this chapter is Education. And so we've gone through 4 chapters already, and just wanted to give a quick review. The book Thought and Life was written by Emmanuel, and it's a very, very small book. Each chapter is maybe 1 or 2 pages. It is available in English. For those of you that are native English speakers that are interested, you can get the book at sgny.org. That's the Spiritist group of New York.org. I think it's about $8. There's no electronic English version at this time, although there is one in Portuguese for our Brazilian friends. And so the last 4 chapters, just a quick review. And so the introduction, the whole purpose of the book was to prepare us, right? To prepare souls as a guidance for those souls who were about to reincarnate. So this book was actually written for us and for souls who were still in the spirit realm, but planning to take a body and incarnate, just like each one of us did before we were born. In the spirit realm, we decided we would, some of us decided, some of us had the decision made for us, depending on what our level of evolution is. But there was a plan for us to reincarnate, and we had help. And so part of the help that spirits get as they prepare to enter into this earthly journey is assistance from the more elevated spirits. And this book is actually one of those types of assistance. And so it's a real big gift for us to have it here on the physical realm. And again, not only was it to help souls reincarnate, but also as a guidance to the wisdom and love of God. This is actually from the introduction, which all books have an introduction that tell you why you should read the book and how you should be thinking as you read the book. And for those of you that are in our summer study, we're studying the book, The Messengers by Andre Luiz, psychographed by the Brazilian medium, Chico Xavier. And the book is basically about a whole bunch of souls who failed in their reincarnatory plan. They failed to execute on their plan. And so we have an opportunity now, if we have guidance on how to be successful in our reincarnatory plan, this is a good idea and a good option for us. In addition, so chapter 1 talked about the mind as a mirror of life, that all of the events in our lives, the people, places, and things are reflections of the thoughts that we have, right? We project out images from our thoughts and our life reflects it back at us. So that's a sobering thought. If there's anything in our life that we might want to change, here's our opportunity, right? It's learning how to direct our thoughts. Interestingly, if this book was an assistance for brothers and sisters who wanted to be successful in their reincarnation, and the book is about thought and life, I guess that tells us that thinking is a big part of success in our reincarnatory plan. And so the will is the second chapter, and this is the mind as an office with many departments, with the will as the leader and the administrator. And so if we think about all of the different parts of our being having like the president of this office suite that is our being, the the will is kind of like the president. And so it's really important and how we engage the will in this work. And then cooperation was chapter 3. And this talked about how it's so important for us to work together for our success. And also the ability to produce that is the quality of a good leader, not just of an office building, but a good leader of our lives, a good leader in being able to execute on our reincarnatory plan. And then chapter 4 was the last chapter that we talked about, which was that 2 wings are required to ascend to God. And those are love and wisdom. They have to work together because love without wisdom or wisdom without love, both will be out of balance. So I'm seeing in the chat, is it really true that you all did not hear the song that I just played? Is that true? Can someone unmute and tell me if you were able to hear the song that I played? Okay, good.
Yeah, I was able to hear it as well.
Okay, good deal, good deal. All right, wonderful. All right, so for today's lesson, one more reminder from the introduction, right? It's not only that we're supposed to be thinking about love and wisdom. It's not only that we need to think about being successful in our reincarnatory journey. It's also that our thoughts, right, and notice how it says we're reminding you yet again. So there's some love and some kindness here, and that we're getting repeated instruction, that our thoughts are a reflection of ourselves, and also it creates the life that we lead until, and this is why it's in bold, our intention here with this book is that we would identify ourselves with not just any kind of wisdom, but the infinite wisdom. And not any kind of love, not conditional love, but infinite love, which in sum total constitutes the thought and life of our Father. So that's the intention with our time today together and with all of the chapters of the book that we read. And so the book opens, everything that is in quotes here is directly from the chapter. So it starts out talking about the presence of light, which of course is why I wanted to play that song for you, which I love very, very much, by India Ari. And so the book opens and says, Christ said, let your light shine. And people used to believe that this only meant that we would have light upon entering a heavenly court after death. But today we recognize that his lesson should be applied in all situations of everyday life. And nowadays, earthly science recognizes the presence of light in all places, right? And we learned from this song that I love so much, that we are light. It was, I thought, a beautiful visual representation of how no matter what is happening, no matter all the things we have on the outside, no matter the things that we have on the inside, nothing can detract from the eternal truth that our souls are made of light. And we learn this from the Spiritist teachings. That is one of the most Spiritist songs I know. And I know that that artist doesn't consider herself a Spiritist, but it is the Spiritist teachings manifested. And so if light is present everywhere, that means, since we're here, that means we are light too. And so we're going to talk a little bit today. What this lesson brings for us is how we can begin to harness this light and shine it intentionally to project rays that produce images that we actually want to reflect back at us, that we want to see when we look out at our lives. So what we learn in this chapter, and it is somewhat of a review, but it talks about thought being a creative force. And so again, this is directly from the book. It says, thought is a creative force that is projected by the person who generates it by means of subtle waves in currents of action and reaction, because our thoughts produce outward as an action, and then what happens? The world reacts back at us. We mentioned this, I believe, in chapter 3, when we talked about the will, that there is nothing in our visible world, nothing, everywhere you are right now. If you look around your home or wherever you are, maybe you're at a friend's home or at a loved one's home, look around you. There's not one thing you can point to that does not have its origin in thought. Everything you can see first started as a thought in someone's mind. It started as an action, right? A mental action that produced a physical action that then had a corresponding reaction, right? So we know this already. And the means of waves in these circuits of action and reaction are measurable. And the book tells us that it's as measurable as the photon, which receiving impulse through the luminous system it produces. And you can see here this image of a brain with the neural network. And scientists have already shown that the brain generates electrical energy right? And as it produces, it travels through space at a predetermined speed, thus sustaining the glowing breath of creation, right? And we know that breath is the first step in our being as our bodies are created. So we know that it starts with breath. And the spirit author and friend Emmanuel reminds us again, we say the human mind is a mirror of light, which not just projects rays, but it also assimilates rays. So stop for a minute. Whatever you are thinking right now, just stop for a minute and notice what you're thinking. Whatever you're thinking, you're actually generating rays. You're literally projecting rays of whatever you're thinking all around you. And whatever you're thinking, are those the rays off that you actually want to give off? And if someone else was thinking what you're thinking right now and projecting those rays on you for you to receive, would those thought rays be something that you wanted to receive? These are questions we have to ask ourselves. I will freely admit, for the last few days, as I have been preparing for this talk, I started to really notice my thoughts. I have a lot of work to do, friends. I have a lot of work to do. It took a tremendous effort to even pay attention to my thoughts for more than a minute or two at a time. And when I did, it took another tremendous effort to redirect myself. I felt like all I did was reminding myself to pay attention and reminding myself to redirect with mixed results. So I know this is work, but it is our work and it is our life's work, evidenced by the title of this book, Thought is Life. So friends, let us work together and pay attention to what rays we are generating. And this is going to be the theme of our talk tonight. Because the very same thing that I just told you that I noticed, it says this mirror of light is a prisoner of the thick shadows of ignorance, just as before a precious stone is encrusted by subterranean sediments. To give off its celestial irradiations and project its brightness, it has to cast off this layer of darkness through a process of perfectioning and enlightenment, which is probably why I was really, really struggling to just pay attention, much less actually shift my thoughts and hold onto a positive thought whose rays I wanted to project or whose rays I would have wanted to receive if I was on the receiving end of someone else projecting those thoughts. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, which he was the scientist, right, that he studied and he documented. He's like a water scientist, a hydrologist, I believe is the correct term for it. And so he studied and documented what happened to the molecular structure of water when it was exposed to human words, to thoughts, to music and intentions. And what he did to document it, those of you that are not familiar with Dr. Emoto's work, is he would either have glasses of water and sometimes natural bodies of water that would either be prayed over, or glasses of water where he would have people stand and focus thoughts on the water, or there would be messages taped to the glass of water, or the person would speak to the glass of water, or music would be played. And how the research results were controlled is first there would be a sample of the water that was taken before the messages, and the water would be frozen. And then he would use a high-powered microscope to zoom very closely in so he could see the water crystals, what they looked like before and after. And so in the first image here, you see what happened to a water crystal that had been spoken, "you fool," or taped, "you fool," or thought, "you fool," at it. And then the water sample after those emanations was frozen and then a photograph taken. And you can see that it is asymmetrical and not necessarily, it's not as beautiful as you see how beautiful and symmetrical and lovely the image on the right is. That was a simple message of thank you. And for those of you that were here a few weeks ago for the lesson in chapter 9 from the gospel, blessed are the meek, there was a message that told us not even to call your neighbor a fool, specifically. There was a what's the word, an Aramaic word that was used, and I cannot remember the Aramaic word now, but translated it means you fool. And this is what, haka, thank you, yes, thank you so much, right? So that we're not even to say that because that's not the vibration we want to send. Now, just a quick reminder, our bodies are 75% water. So what's happening now with our thoughts? What's happening to our body as we are thinking thoughts that are not elevated? This is some research for us to think about. I wanted to show you a little more of his work because sometimes it helps our minds to have a visual representation of science. Dr. Massaro did not consider himself a spiritist, although clearly his science and his documentation validates the theory that we are learning here today. So some additional ones. You can see the difference now of love and gratitude versus you disgust me. There's a profound difference in terms of symmetry, in terms of beauty, in terms of the shape, whether one is misshapen and one is not. This is very, very important for us to pay attention to. And by the way, saying thank you or showing love and gratitude, these are not difficult. They're not difficult. It is actually not hard to produce this beauty and this symmetry in our body, in our being, in our soul, if we use our will and choose to do so. These are results that are neutral, right? These are neutral results documented through controlled research. The data is there for us to examine and to choose what we will do with this knowledge. There's also now a opportunity for us to look at the effect of prayer, right? And what is prayer, right? This is a quote from the Gospel, chapter 27. It's the very beginning, chapter 27 of the Gospel. It's the very end, and it's a collection of prayers. And right in the beginning, it says that the form means nothing, but the thought is everything. And what we see here on the photographs of Fujiwara Dam in Tokyo is probably one of the most polluted bodies of water there is. And you can see the before and after. And this is after a group of Zen Buddhist priests prayed over the water for about an hour, according to the research. And so 1 hour of prayer produced this. Now, this is a dam. I mean, I can't even begin to speculate how many thousands of gallons of water are in a dam. Our bodies are much smaller, contain much less water. We would not need an hour of prayer in order to produce this shift in our being if we chose to. We have the choice to do so. What will we do? And remember, it doesn't really matter whether it's a Buddhist prayer or a Hindu prayer or a Muslim prayer or a Christian prayer or a Yoruba prayer or a Zoroastrian prayer, or you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter what the content of the prayer, what religious tradition, what spiritual practice it is. It's because the thought is everything. The whole intention of a prayer is to connect ourselves with what we perceive as what is divine, right? So whatever and whoever that is for us, the important is to make that connection mentally so that we can have the benefits of feeling the vibrations of that mental connection with the divine. And we can see here the results. I would like to think that our physical bodies are not as polluted as Fujiwara Dam was before those Buddhist monks prayed on it. But look at the opportunity we have just to heal ourselves based on being very intentional about what we think and how we choose to spend our time. And so some additional works from Dr. Massaro. It's so interesting, that he noticed that, crystals that were formed, crystals that were in water that were exposed to classical music or jazz music. He noticed it wasn't just classical. There's no photos of jazz, but his research documents jazz music as well, that it formed like these beautiful, complex crystals. And then water that was listening to like death metal or any music with negative messages formed very distorted or misshapen crystals. This is for us to think about, right? This is for us to think about what we are exposing ourselves to. And so I would like to invite us to an experiment. So for 2.5 minutes, we're going to do an experiment. I'm going to play a very short piece of music for you, and I'm going to think it's 2.5 minutes. And I'm going to ask everyone to please intentionally focus your thoughts during the next piece of music and practice radiating outwards, like creating mental rays of the words that we're hearing. Be very intentional about sending these rays outward. And even though we're separated technically through space, we are connected in this virtual environment, and we have a spiritual connection, and we are connected energetically and harmonized in this moment. And so when we project these rays outward, not only will we benefit, but also the brothers and sisters on the spiritual realm that are always with us will also begin to receive these rays. So for 2.5 minutes, I invite you to listen, to watch the words on the screen, and to allow your body to generate the rays of these words for 2.5 minutes. Thank you for joining me in this experiment.
Where all is deep, the smile of God. From within, you really know only one. An open heart, a sharing. Understanding, compassion, finding the way, freely letting go.
So 2.5 minutes of a short piece of music with some very simple words that I asked you to project as part of the experiment and to project them as rays. And I would love to invite anyone who would like to speak to share what you were thinking and feeling, or if you would like to add it to the chat, you can also please do so. But I would love to know the results of this experiment for just 2.5 minutes of thinking about peace and love and joy and sharing and wisdom. Yes.
So something that me and Ashe do often to the 432. And I notice whenever we do, I'm not really sure how to explain the feeling, but it's like a shift. I can feel like just more relaxed and at peace whenever we're projecting those positive words.
Thank you, Monty. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Who else? Anyone else would like to share what you felt or what you noticed during this experiment? Okay, so be thinking and just notice, or feel free to add to the chat at any time. Let me notice the chat. Peace, yes, that's. And sometimes we say to ourselves that we don't have time to read, to sit and be intentional, calm. Thank you, breathing in and out. Thank you, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Gisele. This was 2.5 minutes. I know that we have busy lives and busy days and a lot of projects, but 2.5 minutes, and it doesn't have to be this particular piece of music. Maybe it's 2.5 minutes of your favorite jazz music, and while you sit and you intentionally think about peace and love and joy and compassion and sharing and wisdom and peace. Like, these are very elevated thoughts for us to hold. Imagine the crystals that we just created in our body. We literally, for this short period of time, for those of us that were able to hear the whole piece of music, for 2.5 minutes, we intentionally begin to change the molecular structure of the water in our body. Like, that's huge. That's huge. And I want us to just be real clear about that, because you just saw the science. Don't take my word for it. Take the scientific evidence, right? Because it's peer-reviewed research. So when we think about now that we need education of thought, like, what does that even mean, education of thought, right? If we think about what we learn in schools, we are not taught how to think. We're taught how to memorize things, but we're not taught how to think. We're not taught to pay attention to the content of our thoughts. And we're not taught about the repercussions in our lives, even though every educator who is paying attention can look around their environment and say what I just said to you. Everything in a classroom was produced by thought. Thought produces things. Thoughts in mind produce after their kind, but we're not taught that. And so because of that, right, it's up to spiritual movements and philosophies to bring, these valid and illuminating instructions for mental improvement. Spiritism is one such philosophy. There are many others. The New Thought movement is also very much understanding that thought creates things. The Unity Christian movement is very aware that thoughts are things. The Science of Mind movement, Christian Science movement, the Centers for Spiritual Living. There are many different philosophies that are aware of this science that thoughts in mind produce after their kind. So we have to learn it elsewhere, which is a good reason why we are all here together. Because if we collectively put together, what we're learning, and then self-knowledge, because there's knowledge that we get from the outside, and then we learn about ourselves. That was part of the experiment, right? Is to listen to something and then look inside and notice what we felt. That's where we learn about ourselves. And then we reflect, hey, what did I notice? This is a pattern that will be very helpful for us, whether it's with music, whether it's with prayer, whether it's with activities that maybe are not of the highest vibration, but begin to notice, because whether they are elevating or whether they are of a lower vibration, it is mobilizing the creative forces of our being. It's not just capable, it actually does. So this is, again, for our consideration and very worthy of our time and attention. And because these forces can enable and evoke our potentialities, our latent unused potential, it's really important for us to be able to guide appropriately the channeling of them correctly, right? Oh, I love this. I'm feeling freedom. Oh, goodness, of creating God and earth. Everything is good. Sharing it with each other, and the universe is providence. I love that. I love that. This is so elevated. We are intentionally, collectively raising the vibration, not just in our body, not just in our homes, but we're literally creating in this space together a circle of light that is helping so many brothers and sisters. So, so beautiful. So when we think about our light, right, our whole purpose, as we said in the beginning, I am light, as the chapter opened up with, that Christ said to let your light shine. This is also now from the book. It says, hence the real need of education for everyone, right? Let us remember the words of the eternal benefactor when he said, let your light shine. And this means that the potential light in our spirit should shine to its fullness, not a little bit, not a flicker, but completely to our fullness. And like I love about that video, I am light, it showed that light coming out from her soul and involving her whole being. We have the capacity through our thought ways to generate light outwards and do that simply with our thoughts. And when we do that, it can help our spirit shine to its fullness. And it starts with the kind of education, right, that will help us improve to this level. And it's up to us to get that kind of education. And it needs to be the kind of education that's going to refine our intellect. Now, refine it means makes it more polished. It sloughs off the dark part and leaves the light. And that it improves our inner world. Because if we are taking in information and our insides are not different when we're finished, what was the point? Right? So it's improving our inner world in knowledge and goodness and wisdom and virtue, which are not merely achieved by disinstruction from the outside. That is why there's that important part of you take in the education, which is the title of this book, this chapter, and then we begin to learn about ourselves through reflection, and then we apply what we've learned, right? This is how we begin to put education to its highest use to allow us to generate as much light as possible. But to do this, we need the consent of the will. That president of that office building, that's the body. We need the will to say, yes, I will do this. We need to choose, right? Because when the will declares itself freely and spontaneously to goodness, just like we did for 2.5 minutes, right? Without any constraints, then it can liberate and refine the heart and allow, right, that the crystal clear image of the soul, this beautiful amount of light, to be imprinted on us, to really allow us to let our light shine, right? And then our soul is able to reflect this glorious light, to transform our mind, because our minds now need help, right? We need a lot of those 2.5 minutes, right? To transform our mind into a powerhouse of superior energy, meaning better energy than we're producing right now. And that is projecting beauty and sublimation. And when we talk about letting your light shine, one easy way to do that also is to do charity work. We are already told over and over by the good spirits that charity is love in action, charity is light in the soul. To do good works is also to generate a lot of light in our soul. But we have to choose, right? We have to have the consent of the will. And some of us, might have a question about freedom, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's see what the spirits say about, are we free? Are we truly free? Well, Allan Kardec asked the spirits, and this is what he was told. He said, is there anything in human beings that escapes all limitations? Not some, but all limitations, and which they enjoy absolute freedom. And the spirits told him they enjoy unbounded freedom in their thoughts, as there is no obstacle to thought. While it may be hindered, for example, if we are engaging in vices, or there are ways that our thoughts can be hindered but not stopped. Thought can never be extinguished. We are free to think whatever we want. We are free to think whatever we want. And then, there was a follow-up question. Well, do human beings have free will in their actions, right? And the answer is, since we have freedom of thought, they also have freedom of action, because without free will, we'd be nothing more than machines, and we are not machines. We know this. So the question is, what will we do with that freedom? Whatever we do with it is a function of the will, because we are free to think, and our will allows us to take action on those thoughts. And our will allows us to choose our thoughts. What will we do with that freedom? Because we are free to choose whatever we take in, right? Think about all of the media content that's out there, right? And good news doesn't really make the news, right? The news that's out there is not what we would consider good news. Most media outlets have a tiny little sliver of human interest stories. Well, let's see, if the human interest story is good news, well, what sort of interest are the other topics? Isn't that sort of an interesting thought, right? But we have a choice, right? We can avoid it completely, or we can, for those of us that need to stay informed for a certain reason, right, to have a set time and let's prepare ourselves before and after with prayer, right? We can choose this. We have the choice on what we intake. We have the choice on how we do it. And we know that a lot of popular music also doesn't really contain a lot of positive messages. And you know what's interesting? The best music is catchy, right? You ever get a song stuck in your head? Most of us have at least one time in our life. And what happens is when a song gets stuck in your head, guess what you're doing? You're singing those lyrics over and over. And the lyrics are words. And those words are usually connected to an idea. So if we're singing that in our head over and over again, that's also producing a recurring thought pattern long after the song finishes. Well, what are we listening to, right? For 2.5 minutes, we had an opportunity. And there's some great popular music. There is for our Portuguese, for our Portuguese speakers, for our Brazilian friends, there's a wonderful collection of affirmations. One of them is, I think it's O Jardim da Minha Mente é Lindo. I think it was O Jardim da Minha Mente é Lindo, é lindo, é lindo. It's like the garden of my mind is beautiful. And you just say that over and over again. I know I didn't sing that well, and I'm sure my pronunciation is off, but y'all know, so estudante de português, now follow boom. So sorry about that. But there's a lot of good stuff. There are a lot of affirmations you can listen to. And even like in American music, even, rap music, which gets such a bad rap, right? Pun intended. There's rappers like J. Cole, who's here from the Raleigh area, that has wonderful positive messages in his music, right? So we have choices, no matter what kind of music we listen to listen to music that is going to produce recurring thoughts, that are going to produce the molecular change in our bodies, in the water of our bodies that we want. That is up to us. We have to allow the will to make a choice that is going to serve our highest goods. And even if we can't or won't do it for ourselves, remember that not only are our thoughts and words affecting our inner world, remember they are projecting rays outwards. So it affects your family, it affects your friends, it affects those brothers and sisters on the spiritual realm that are always with us. Remember, we were taught by the good spirits, 5 to 7 of them for every one of us, right? So we're never alone. What rays are we projecting out? And remember, we are emitting rays and we are receiving rays, and we are attracting the rays that vibrate harmoniously with what we're emitting. So that will also determine what kind of energies are around us. Again, we get to choose. So consider listening to music that creates recurring thoughts that you actually want to have. So we talked about education having 3 pieces, right? It's a knowledge that you take in, right? And it's learning yourself. And then there's this period of self-observation, right? We take in, this is where the inside parts, because education is not complete without the inner work. So when we think about our self-observation, one of the things we should do is pay attention to our habitual thoughts that are negative. And so it will require us to notice what we're thinking, right? And just pay attention and just notice what those thoughts are, right? And most importantly, notice how those thoughts make you feel and what they produce in terms of your mood, in terms of the environment around you, and also in terms of your body, and in terms of what you're creating in terms of circumstances in your life. This is for us to do. This is the self-knowledge that is critical for us to gather, because we know that inner transformation is the highest goal we have as part of our reincarnatory journey, but we can't change anything. We cannot transform anything without knowing where we're starting. Otherwise, how will we know if we made progress? We have to know where we're starting, and we will not get there without that self-observation. No one can tell us where we're at. We have to do that ourselves. And it looks like Karen shared a playlist. Thank you so much, Karen. I love that. And if anyone else has any positive songs you want to drop in the chat, that would be wonderful. This is a time that we can really help each other if we choose to. And also the other part of self-observation, right, is for us to think about, what positive thoughts that we're able to generate. That was the purpose of our experiment. And notice how these thoughts make you feel. Notice how you feel inside. Notice how you feel emotionally. Notice how you feel physically. Notice how you feel mentally, because some thoughts are exhausting. Some thoughts are energizing. Some thoughts are depressing, right? Thoughts actually have the capacity to generate an energy field. What do you feel when you think those thoughts? What do those positive thoughts produce in your home life, in your environment, in your relationships, in your work, in your goals, in your dreams, in your actions? Because again, if everything visible is also a production of our thought, what are the positive thoughts producing in your environment? This is for us to notice so that we can reflect and know what we need to transform, because only we can really make that decision, and it has to be a function of the will. And notice if you can see the connection, because there is a connection, but we have to train ourselves to see it. You know, in the summer study on Saturday, there was a line from a chapter in the book Living Spring by Emmanuel. And it said, we have to train ourselves to think about God. We have to train ourselves to think about divine energy. We have to train ourselves to think high thoughts. And the only way to do that is to know what we're actually thinking, so that we know when I think this, I should be thinking that. This will help us once we start to see the connection between our negative thoughts and what they produce, our positive thoughts and what they produce, decide which one we like, which probably won't be hard, make the connection, and make the change. That's up to us. And so the question we have now for us, friends, right, is, you know, how can Spiritism help? I remember saying at the beginning, Spiritism is just one of the spiritual philosophies that teaches about the importance of our thoughts. And so there are many ways that Spiritism can help, right? Spiritism has collaborated, right? There's been a collaboration of many mediums that have worked with the good spirits, that have worked with Allan Kardec, who codified a lot of the messages that were received from the good spirits. And it has created a process of moral education to help us to educate our morals, as well as to provide assistance, right, in awakening the conscious and responsibility of each one. Because conscience, which is our awareness, and responsibility are two different things. You can be aware of something and never do anything, or you can be aware of it and know that you need to do something, but not do it. That responsibility is understanding the need, right? That's making the connection between what you're thinking and what you're doing, and then actually noting that you have responsibility to take that action. I cannot take action on your thoughts. You have to take that action. And you cannot take action on my thoughts to improve me. I've got to improve them. That's where the will functions in. And Spiritism can help us with education to begin to start that process. So there's lots of studies and readings. We have our courses, our Saturday courses, and prayer and reflections on the important questions, right, of existence. Why are we here, right? And moral transformation. And most importantly, the services of charity, right, which helps us not just in educating our thoughts, but also in the psychic balance. Because if our thoughts are predominantly negative and our actions are predominantly negative, we will eventually be out of balance. Think about those images of that water. If all the water in our body is misshapen and malformed, that's not the balance that is going to produce the highest level of evolution for us, right? I think we want to be in that space of having the beauty and symmetry of love and gratitude and peace and wisdom and giving and compassion and all of the beautiful words in that song that we listened to, and the way that the molecular structure of the water in our body would change, and also our consciousness, right? That would produce this psychic balance that will help us evolve in our soul and to generate that light. So we can really say, I am light, and see it and feel it and generate it, and everyone else sees it and feels it and generates it too. Then truly we will be in heaven on earth. And these practices help us to develop our intuition, right, and inspiration, which brings even more light that will help us clean and purify our mental field and elevate the nature of our thoughts. And it's so important for us, it's super important that we educate our thoughts by cultivating good ideas. This word cultivating is normally used in plant culture, right? You plant a seed and then you cultivate it by adding fertilizer and watering it regularly. And you make sure the soil has good nutrients and you place it in a controlled climate or in a microclimate that is suitable for this little seedling's development. And the new seedling is very fragile. It's not until the seedling matures that it's strong enough to withstand weather and other elements in the environment that might harm it. Right. So we have to do that with our good ideas, right? We plant the good idea and then we watch over it, make sure we get water for the good idea and sun for the good idea and the right soil. That's our mind. Like, let's cultivate our minds. This means taking some time to do this, right? People don't just throw a seed and expect it to grow and not take care of it, right? If anyone who knows anyone who plants, that's not so. If we offer that to a plant, what about this fertile soil that is our mind, that can produce the change that we want in the world? How much time will we allow our will? How much time will we give to it? It is up to us, right? And most importantly, is communing with the source of life. We do that through prayer. We do that through meditation, right? And this develops our intuition. That our intuition is our capacity to connect with the divine and with the spiritual realm around us, right? This is also part of building our mediumship, right? And to use this intuition to guide our mind in the right direction, right? And all of this is within our reach. This is not hard to do, right? And it requires only two things, right? The use of our freedom of choice and our will. That is all that's required. And both of those we have learned earlier today, we have absolute dominion and agency over. All of us, and I do mean all of us, can choose what thoughts we think, and we can choose what thoughts we act on. We can choose any thought that we want to act on. So there's an invitation for us, is what will we choose? So this is what we had here for you tonight. We have a couple more slides that are messages, and then we will start our past treatment. So this is a good time to make sure you have some water if you haven't placed it yet near you. And now, having seen the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto and how the molecular structure of water can be shifted based on energies, now you can just imagine how beautiful the water is going to be when you drink it later or share it with your family. And once you drink it, how it will change the vibration of your own body. Just, I would say food for thought, but I'll say water for thought. So this final message is from chapter 30 from one of my favorite books, Living Spring. Highly recommend you get it. It's in English and in Portuguese. It's a book of beautiful short messages. I don't think I have my copy here, but it's like one page, a little bit under a page sometimes. And I read one just kind of every morning, and it just sets the tone for your day. But this one is chapter 30, and it just so happens to be called Educate, the title of our chapter today. And it says, do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's spirit lives in you? And this is from the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 3:16. And he says, inside the tiny seed lives the blueprint of the whole tree. In the heart of the soil are the melodies of the spring. In blocks of stone are masterpieces of statuary. Nonetheless, the orchard needs constant care. The sculpted stone requires the work of the chisel. Similarly, the spirit harbors the gene of divinity. God is in us as much as we are in God. Just like we saw in the song, I am light, I am divine on the inside. Like we saw in the song Peace, joy, the smile of God, that I am the smile of God, right? God is in us as much as we are in God. However, so the divine light may shine forth from human darkness, it is necessary for the educational processes of life to work in us on the stony pathway of the millennia. Only the educated mind can produce illumined forms of thought, and only spiritual greatness can produce a soothing voice to speak balanced and sublime words. So let us understand that pain and toil, that we understand them as the heavenly artists of our spiritual purification. And if we educate ourselves, you will transform irrationality into intelligence, intelligence into humanity, and humanity into angelhood. Educate, and you will build heaven on earth. Since we know that the Lord dwells in us, let us improve our lives so that we may reflect him. So this is from Emmanuel, chapter 30 of Living Spring. So, we are going to do a short healing affirmation, and then we will start our passes. The healing affirmation will be for us to prepare our minds and to be thinking thoughts and rays that will assist us in the past treatment. So join me in saying these words silently as I speak them aloud. I am love. I am light. I am health. I am peace. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be healthy. Today begins the healing of my mind, my body, and my spirit. I forgive myself for the mistakes I have made because I am not to blame for anything. I could not and did not know any other way at that moment. I forgive all of the people I felt angry with, and I accept them because they couldn't be the way that I wanted them to be. I release them and free myself from the feeling of resentment forever. I completely cancel the past in the present to release my future. I stop judging myself and others forever. I surrender in this moment all of my pain so that it turns into love, health, and peace. Peace. By your divine power and love within me, I decide to heal my body, my mind, and my soul. I open my heart to your pure love that surrounds me with its radiant light, revitalizing every cell in my body and every negative thought, converting them into positive ones, recreating me into a new life full of joy and love. I desire with all my heart this healing to then help heal others and thus fulfill my mission of love in this life. May it be so. Gratitude. And so now let us prepare for the past treatment. And so in this moment, what we would like to do is ask you to close your eyes, calm your hearts, as we ask God for the presence of our guardian angel and the friendly spirits that welcome us in the spiritual environment of our home. We open our hearts, our chakra of love and forgiveness, and we mentalize a soft golden light involving our heart. We look in this moment, settling ourselves peacefully and comfortable, and we begin to notice our mind calming down. And we breathe slowly and deeply during the past treatment, allowing our body to relax, allowing our mind to relax, feeling calm within us and all around us, feeling the divine energies involving us with a soft light in us and all around us, feeling ourselves in an environment of peace and tranquility. We open ourselves in prayer, asking God for assistance with our deepest needs. We elevate our thoughts, connecting to Jesus and to the good spirits that are in this spiritual environment. And our past treatment begins with the cleaning of our soul. We imagine a waterfall of crystal clear water washing and falling over us, cleaning away all of the impurities and unwanted energies, and washing away any sadness and any resentments. We feel this beautiful water washing away any feelings of hatred and revenge that are holding us back and causing us harm, not only in this life, but in past ones. We visualize a team of spiritual doctors all around us now, applying magnetic cleansing passes that are cleaning our spiritual body, clearing all the negative energies and suffering. We mentalize these negative thoughts and feelings being washed away, evaporating from our soul like water that evaporates in the air, and being cleansed and taken away far from our mind, body, and spirit. Thank you, God. Now, feeling spiritually clean and lighter, feeling brighter, we invite Jesus to approach us now and place his hands over our head, surrounded now by the light of love that are coming from the hands of Jesus. We imagine a bright golden ray of sunshine that is involving us and illuminating everything in us and around us, our mental field, our emotional field, our soul, our physical body, our aura, all involved. We feel ourselves involved in this beautiful, beneficial feeling that frees us from the chains of anything that has tied us down. We feel relieved by the strengthening of this beautiful energy of the past. And we feel now and mentalize the spiritual mentors applying this divine light that is strengthening our mind and strengthening our emotions, helping us to feel emotionally vitalized. And we spread this light now throughout our entire home, cleaning the spiritual environment of our home, filling it with love, involving each one of our family members, all the brothers and sisters on the spiritual realm here in our homes. And we send this light also to our places of work, involving all of our co-workers, all of the people who touch our lives. We see this intense light of love involving each and every one of them. And we set our intention now to hold this light within us, hold the memory, the consciousness and awareness of this light. And we intend to send this light as rays of thoughts generating into our environment for as long as we can. And we thank you, God, for this opportunity tonight to learn. We close ourselves in prayer now in gratitude for this path, asking the good spirits to bless our water, to make it a medicine for everything our mental, physical, and spiritual bodies need, and for our family members we will share this with, that this water would help us to remember to educate ourselves, that this water would also help us remember to notice our thoughts, to strive for more positive thoughts, to notice the connection between our thoughts and our well-being, and the connection between our thoughts and our circumstances. And most importantly, the connection between our thoughts and the quality of our life and evolution on this physical journey as a spiritual soul. So in gratitude, we say thank you, thank you, thank you, knowing that the energy of gratitude produces a beautiful change in the molecular structure of our body. And it is for this that we give thanks. And so it is. So we let it be.
Thank you, Carrie.